Hi, kids. Okay, let's talk about Rebecca, the Alfred Hitchcock film from 1940, of course, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Joan Fontaine, Laurence Olivier, George Sanders, and Judith Anderson. So, um, it is based on a novel by Daphne du Maurier. I feel like I've mentioned her on this channel before, but maybe I haven't. Uh, but I have mentioned in my Lady Vanishes video that Lady Vanishes is what gets the eye of David O. Selznick, American film producer, and he tries to lure Hitchcock from the UK over to America, make films for him. So Lady Vanishes comes out, hit. Selznick wants him to come over. Before he comes over, though, he makes one more film. He makes Jamaica Inn, um, which is starring and I believe produced by Charles Laughton, actor. Charles Laughton is kind of difficult on set, clashes with Hitchcock. Hitchcock, not a big fan of actors to begin with. Laughton, by the way, the director of A Night of the Hunter, um, his only film he directed. So Hitchcock, maybe that helps push Hitchcock out and over to America. See what's over in the greener pastures. Um, Jamaica Inn, by the way, also based on works by Daphne du Maurier, and he will adapt works of hers again. Her short story, The Birds, based on her work. Also, films like Don't Look Now and My Cousin Rachel. So, anyways, so he comes over, uh, adapting Rebecca, because why not? It's worked before, he just did it. But there's immediately a clash. And I mentioned in my Rear Window video, if you want to know what their relationship was like between David O. Selznick and Hitchcock, just look at the way that he made the killer in Rear Window look like David O. Selznick. So the immediate clash, as Selznick wants it to be a very faithful adaptation of the novel. Hitchcock doesn't really do that. Takes what he wants. It's more of inspired by. So there's a clash right away there. So screenplay is credited to Robert E. Sherwood and Joan Harrison. Sherwood, playwright, member of the Algonquin Round Table, also Academy Award winning screenwriter of The Best Years of Our Lives. Joan Harrison will work with Hitchcock many a time. Foreign Correspondent, Jamaica Inn, so just worked with her. Suspicion, Saboteur, and then after working with Hitchcock on those films, partnering with him to write the screenplays, she becomes a producer, produces a number of film noirs, including Phantom Lady. Anyway, so Hitchcock wanted his version of the screenplay. Selznick did not want that. So what Hitchcock does on set is he decides to shoot it in camera, which means that he basically, not a lot of coverage, he just shoots what he wants. So he edits it as he shoots it. So only just this shot, just this shot, just that. So there's no alternatives. Selznick, who likes to be in the editing bay and likes to have control of the edit, has no other options. He has to use what shot because there's nothing else shot, right? Hitchcock's gonna get his film made that way. Except Selznick just demands reshoots. He demands dubbing to change the lines, right? So they do ADR, additional dialogue recording, and you can just sometimes it's very obvious when there's ADR. They do ADR for changing the curses for television. Um, but he does things like that to get the film to what he wants. So there's this big push and pull between these two guys. So Rebecca is also an interesting film in Hitchcock's filmography because not only is it his first American film, but it's also his only film to win an Academy Award for Best Picture. So wins the Best Picture. It's nominated for a slew of Academy Awards. Wins Best Picture. Also wins Best Cinematography, black and white. Split into color and black and white back in 40. Um, and so if we want to talk about Academy Awards, he also had Foreign Correspondent was nominated for Academy Award, which came out the same year as Rebecca. So lost to Rebecca. You can't have two films win Best Picture, especially when they're directed by the same director. I don't think that would go over very well. And then the very next year, Suspicion comes out, nominated for Best Picture, but it loses to How Green Was My Valley, John Ford film. Also losing to How Green Was My Valley that year is a film called Citizen Kane, and also The Maltese Falcon. So pretty good year for film. I personally would take Maltese Falcon or Citizen Kane or Suspicion over How Green Was My Valley, but what do I know? And then Spellbound in 1946, also nominated for Best Picture, loses to Billy Wilder's The Lost Weekend, and Hitchcock never wins Best Director. He was nominated for Best Director for Rebecca. It wins Best Picture, but he doesn't win Best Director. So 5 times he's nominated for Best Director for Rebecca, for Lifeboat, for Spellbound, for Rear Window, and for Psycho. He loses to John Ford, to Leo McCarey, twice to Billy Wilder, and once to Elia Kazan. So, Rebecca, you could say it's a film noir. Do you think it's a film noir? It's definitely, Hitchcock is definitely very influenced by German Expressionism, and he uses that a lot in ways that he's allowed to in this film, anyways. That's it for Rebecca. Like, subscribe.